What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I am Johnny Monoxide, and tonight I'm joined by Mr. Scott Taylor and Mr. Adam Haidt. What's up, guys?
Hey, how's everyone doing?
What's up?
You guys
have to get back after the break.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys enjoy your week off? I know I did.
Yeah, it was nice.
It was. It was. Had a nice little vacation in Tennessee, out in the woods. It was hot. It was stormy. It's beautiful out there. Had a good time. Met up with Matt Heimbach. Met Matt Heimbach for the first time. Had a meetup of about.
Oh, which Applebee's did you go to?
Surprisingly enough, it wasn't in Applebee's. We went to the Whitewater Grill, which is Rick Tyler's restaurant. You guys know Rick Tyler? Make America White Again billboard.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. He ran for Senate in Tennessee. last go around, he ran for Senate and he lost, but he didn't lose by much. So we're trying to promote him again. But I guess they have their meetings there once a week, so it's cool. You can be like an open white nationalist there. It's great. So yeah, the TWP was there. There was a bunch of League of the South was there. There was the Confederate 28s, which is, I guess, another Southern nationalist group. There were some of the, we'll call them Knights, if you know what I mean. And, of course, myself there representing TRS, which was kind of cool. It was funny. I walked up and, I was like, is this the TWP Matt Heimbach thing? And they're all like, there's also League of the South. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm Johnny Monoxide from The Right Stuff. And like 4 people are like, holy shit, dude, I love the Paranormies. Like, so nice. Many people. Yeah, there's a bunch of people that love the Paranormies that were there, including. Do you remember a couple weeks ago there was we got the donation from that guy Caesar who talked about PedoTube, Scott, and you remember him on Twitter as well, and his wife messages us quite a bit. Yeah. They were there. Caesar and his wife were there, so I got to meet them. It was great. Good time was had by all. The restaurant I had tendies, just so you guys know. It was the portions were like 2 or 3 piece tendies. I'm like, only 3, and I ordered the 3-piece tendies, and they came out there. Everything in that restaurant is homemade from scratch. His family like works there. I don't know if it's his daughters or his nieces or whatever, but it's all like young kids. They're all related. It's a family business. They live right behind there. It's really cool, and everything is homemade. So it's 3-piece tendies. It was literally like a half a chicken breast per tendy. I was severely, I was impressed. The other, a Folk Bunny is the wife there from Caesar's wife.
Oh, right.
This message us, Folk Bunny 79, her name is. She's the one that sent us the stuff on Pedogate and, talking about Pelzer, South Carolina and Elsa Gate and stuff. Yeah. Very much interested in the paranormal. She's actually saying she wants to put together a paranormal team and do stuff. So that's cool. Yeah, they're really cool people. A couple of guys came all the way down from Chicago to go to this meetup, and there was 2 active duty Marines from North Carolina. It was really cool. It was a really good time. Surprisingly, I mean, like Mike said when he went to Pikeville, that there was a lot of Daily Show listeners, and a lot of the guys there were like, yeah, I've heard you on the show, but I love the Paranormies. I'm like, all right, that's great. People love our show.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we had a great time. People were like, I'm gonna send you ghost stories, and so it's fine, send it to us. Yeah, they have the Twitter and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna get more ghost stories in our Twitter. Speaking of which, the Twitter is at the Paranormies. And yeah, so good. Did you guys do anything fun over your break, or did you just have a week off?
No, I did literally jack shit.
Nice. Adam?
Yeah.
Nice. Sounds like a good time was had by all. All right. So tonight we are talking about a guy who actually belongs to a group of people who are very special people who have the ability to do things such as what do they call it?
Well, in
PK?
general, well, PK is psychokinesis.
Right, yeah, psychokinesis. But what's the
Sigh
thing? Yeah,
is the-
Sigh. Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the broad term for all the different abilities.
Including psychokinesis, telekinesis,
including
ESP,
telepathy,
remote viewing, astral projection, all that kind of great stuff. Real quick, what do you guys do now? Are either of you believers or disbelievers in this kind of thing?
I believe it. I'm not sure that like it's as strong as some of the proponents make it out to be, but I think it's real.
Yeah. The book we're talking about, PK Man, Ted Owens, the author, Jeffrey Mishlove, seems a little bit too credulous than I would like, but I would say that I think the book is generally credible because of the stuff that we learned when we did our near-death experiences episode. To me, like the fact that all that stuff is so well documented and everything that we know about that, like it leads me to be open to the idea of psi abilities and stuff. Just because like the nature of consciousness is not very well understood.
Yeah, I mean, the guy seemed to be credulous of a lot of Ted Owens' stuff, but at the same time, like he had been in communication with him for what, like 20 years.
10 years. He worked with him closely for 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And on top of that, there was the fact that all of Ted Owens' stuff was documented via letters and things that you can't really fake. But I mean,
Not
I
in
guess
that volume.
No. But I mean, I guess before we get into that, we should talk about who Ted Owens was and, you know, why we're even discussing this.
Well, do we want? Yeah. Adam, you watched the videos. There's other people that are into this as well, not just Jeffrey Mishlove, but even on the alt-right, there's Jason Reza Georgiani, who has been interviewed by Jeffrey Mishlove a couple of times, talking about the PK Man and talking about other forms of psi. And he did a good video with him about this, where he talked about the hermetical hermeneutics of this. Remember that?
Yeah, with the idea of there being trickster deities like Hermes that are kind of involved with psychokinesis. PK is psychokinesis. I don't know if we said that or not, but I don't want people to wonder what the acronym is.
Yeah, PK. Yes, PK is psychokinesis, the ability to do things with your mind. To do physical things with your mind.
Right. Georgiani talked about the trickster aspects of this, and I think you can kind of see it in the book that we all read. Like, Ted Owens kind of was I don't know what you would call him. He's kind of an asshole, honestly.
He was. He had a very gregarious, loud personality. He liked to drink. He was known for like polishing off an entire bottle of scotch in a sitting. Which, hey,
yeah, he would,
my kind of guy.
He would get drunk and try to change the outcome of sports games.
Which he actually did successfully. Yeah, exactly. There's I was just listening to another interview with Jeffrey Mishlove and that, what's her name? Lynette Katz or Lynn Katz or whatever her name was, where they talked about he wouldn't just predict it. He would say, you know, so-and-so is going to fumble the ball. And the next day in the newspaper, it would show that this guy, and at a key time, not just like whatever, but like he would fumble the ball in the end zone and there would be a fumble in the end zone. And he didn't predict it. He actually caused it.
Right. Okay. Well, to rewind a little bit. So Ted Owens was born in 1920 and
Indiana.
Yeah. So he's kind of a Midwestern guy. Seemed like a real soul of the earth kind of guy. His I think his parents divorced when he was really little, and he went to live with his grandparents, I want to say. And his grandfather knew about like dowsing, where you look for water and stuff. His grandmother was into kind of I don't know, paranormal kind of stuff as well.
Like Ouija boards.
Yeah, Ouija boards. I mean,
Yeah, the
nothing
Ouija
crazy,
boards came up a lot. Yeah.
So he had some exposure to paranormal things even as a kid. There were, I think, 3 separate times in the book that talked about him levitating spontaneously as a kid. Now, this is obviously all secondhand from him talking about it down the road. But he said it happened once when he was like 6. Another time happened when he was at a swimming pool. He jumped off the high dive and hovered in the air. And then the third time was he was in the Navy. I want to say during World War II. He was in the Navy and went to jump off somewhere, and he hovered for a while as well. And I guess all these...
Was it
other
a
sailors
ladder?
saw it. It was a ladder or something like that. I can't remember. But so he had some weird spontaneous stuff happen like that. He was a hypnotist. He was a boxer. He did a lot of like stage magic kind of stuff.
He was
So
a
he's kind of
healer.
one of these. Yeah, he did a lot of different things. So he was kind of one of those guys who was kind of almost a drifter in a way. Couldn't really, hold down a steady job or anything like that. But in the 60s, he started discovering these other abilities he had. And initially he thought that this was coming from himself or that it was coming from nature. But I think it was in like 65, he started having these encounters with UFOs. And he claimed that he received like telepathic messages from aliens. He called them the space intelligences, or SIs.
The SIs. Yep.
Basically, he thought that they were these aliens or these extra-dimensional creatures who were looking for someone to transmit their message to humanity, essentially. And they had been looking for thousands of years and this and that. Well, that doesn't really sound much different than your run-of-the-mill schizophrenic at the at the bus stop.
Or it sounds a lot like a few thousand years ago, a certain guy named Moses who was spoken to by a being and was given psychokinetic powers. You guys remember the stories of him battling the Pharaoh's magicians in the Bible, which is all like psychokinetic type stuff.
That was one of the things that Ted Owens compared himself to, was Moses a lot of the time, which seems awfully grandiose. He's a figure in, I think, all 3 of the Abrahamic religions. So it's kind of a grandiose claim, but basically he thought that he was basically another Moses as far as his abilities, and he wanted to lead people into some sort of awakening or whatever. But again, this all sounds like a schizophrenic at a bus stop. But
it does now because we've come to realize that if it's absurd, then it can't be true.
Right. But that's the thing, is what's interesting about Ted Owens specifically is that a lot of his stuff seemed to be actually backed up by facts. He claimed that he could control the weather. He claimed he could communicate with the space intelligences and cause UFOs to appear. He claimed that he could affect the outcomes of sports games and things like that. He claimed to be able to heal people. He claimed to be able to put hexes on people.
And he did do
weird stuff.
There's documented. Mishlev has over 160 different documented instances of Ted doing this stuff. So, and where 160 instances of him trying to do it, and over 2/3 of them were very successful. So,
well, yeah, and that's the
Did you mention the UFO summoning?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
He did that a lot.
wasn't
He did that quite a bit. That was one of the ways.
100% of the time, which is another thing that made me think is actually legitimate, was the fact that he did have failures. And there was one instance where he claimed that a 8.0 earthquake would hit California, and it never did. And in the book, Mishlove says, this is one of his most, one of his biggest failures that proves or, goes to disprove anything.
But at the same time, he did have there was an experiment where they were doing where he talked about earthquakes, and there were not just one but 8 earthquakes also in California. A lot of his stuff took place in the Bay Area, which is very interesting to me because that's where I'm at. Like, he did a lot of stuff in San Francisco, around Berkeley. He actually did Mishlove or did Owens go to UC Berkeley? I can't remember.
I think that was Mishlove.
Yeah,
Mishlove was. That's right. He was a grad student. Yeah, he was a doctoral student at UC Berkeley, and that's where he actually because Owens was in the Bay Area. But yeah, there was the one. I believe it was in 1977 when he said there was the one experiment. He said that Mishlove said it was clear that Owens sometimes failed, and Owens got mad, and he said he was going to kick the hell out of the San Francisco area. And a few weeks later, there were 8 5.0 earthquakes in the Bay Area in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and he would tend to kind of do the same sort of phenomena. Like, there would always be electrical issues with the area.
There were power outages.
People would go crazy, quote unquote. You'd see an uptick in a lot of, basically people storming the mayor's office saying that they are hearing aliens talking to them, stuff like that. Earthquakes, freak weather, droughts, or floods, depending on what's out of season. One of my favorites was, I don't know if you read the one about Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Where basically Florida had how did it go? They were suffering from a drought, right? And he made it rain just way out of proportion to what you'd expect. There was a drought going on in Florida for like weeks at a time, and there was water rationing and stuff. I think this was 79 or something like that. I can't remember. And then the drought was over, and then part 2 that he claimed would happen weeks before any of this started was that the drought came back worse than before. And finally, he said he would make a hurricane appear and hit the, I think it was the Florida Inquirer, I think it was, because the newspaper basically said he was full of shit. And you'd get really mad with... He had
a very... he kind of had a vindictive thing going on where, like... where people didn't believe him, and if people didn't believe him or they mocked him, he would like have a malevolence to his PK. He actually, well, go ahead and finish that story because there's a bunch of other ones.
Yeah. Well, so what he would do, his method was he would explain what he was going to do in a letter, go to the post office, get it stamped, because when you mail a letter, they stamp a date on it. And then he would mail it to several researchers and reporters. So the last thing he said he was going to do was he was going to make a hurricane hit Florida. And then 2 or 3 days after he mailed this letter out, there was a tropical depression that appeared, off the coast of Africa. And I think it got up like a Category 5 hurricane.
Yeah, maximum power.
Hurricane David, I think, or something like that.
Hurricane David.
It got up to a Cat 5, and it hit the Caribbean, and I think the winds were like 150, 170 miles an hour, something like that. And one of the reporters or somebody basically called him up and is like, okay, dude, I believe you. Like, can you,
make it stop.
There's like thousands of people are going to be in serious trouble if this thing hits Florida. And I guess he felt bad about it, and he said, okay, I'll make it stop. And it veered off course, and it turned into a low level tropical storm. So basically, in this story alone, there are 4 things that happened that were completely unexpected by everyone except Ted Owens. One is that the drought season ended because they didn't see any sign of it ending. And with us giving the summary, there's a lot more in the book. Like there's actual cited newspaper articles and headlines and such. So I'm giving kind of the summary. But no one expected the drought to end. No one expected the rains that ended the drought to end so suddenly and the drought to start again. No one expected the hurricane to appear because it was it had been like 11 or 13 years since a hurricane had hit Florida at that point in time. And then finally, no one expected the hurricane to go from a Cat 5 to, a weak tropical storm. So basically, the meteorologists looked like assholes like 4 times in a row. But that was kind of what you see with Ted Owens with a lot of this stuff, is things that are just really outside the realm of probability. And one or two of them together, you could, I think, pretty easily write off as being coincidence. But the amount of things that have happened with this guy, we can go into other ones like Mount St. Helens, the Challenger space disaster.
Whoa. Yeah, one at a time. Well, it wasn't Mount St. Helens. It was Mount Etna in Italy, too.
No, well, Mount St. Helens is the other one.
He was there for that.
Oh, was he? I missed that. I must have missed that one when I was reading.
It was later on in the book.
Oh, okay. All right. So one of the first things that he did, speaking of droughts, was he stopped a drought in the Bay Area in 1976. There was a really bad drought, again, with water rationing in the Bay Area, and he said he was going to stop it. That was one of the things that it was one of his ways of introducing himself to Mishlove, was he said that he would stop the drought in a very distinct way, and actually caused sleet and a snowstorm in San Francisco, and they hadn't had snow since, like, was it 1860 something? This was in February. This was in February 76, and
February 5th.
Yeah, and they hadn't had snow since, I want to say, it was like January
1887.
1887. Yeah, 1887. That was the one. And that's ridiculous. And I've lived here for a long time, and I've never seen snow. And I've never seen anything close to weather cold enough to even have snow. And this happened. Now, you got to remember, another thing in the Bay Area is you have
also lightning that struck.
Oh yeah, lightning, and that's another thing. We have rain, and now we don't get winter like, most northern states or whatever. We don't get snow. We get rain, and we sometimes get thunder. We never get lightning. And there was lightning. There was lightning. There was sleet. There was hail, and of course the snow.
And this lasted for weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't just a couple of days. It killed the entire drought, and I believe actually the rain, it was so bad that it actually caused mudslides.
Yeah,
So,
just millions of dollars of damage in LA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, I'm not upset, but
well, back then it wasn't exactly. I would be less upset now if it happened in the 70s. It might have been a little bit more something to get upset about. But anyways, I digress. In the Bay Area, you have Livermore, you have Menlo Park, you have a few of these top secret military bases here, and there was a military think tank called SRI International in Menlo Park, where these two physicists, Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ, were doing clairvoyance, which they also call remote viewing, which is another form of Sigh. You guys know what that is, right?
What, remote viewing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
right. It's basically, they basically sit down and try to get a feeling for a place or an object that they can't see, and they write down details about it.
Right. They see things that they actually can't physically see. Right. Yeah. Right. So anyway, so these guys had they've been successful with another member of the Sigh community, a man named Uri Geller. Adam, he's good. He's one of your favorites, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That guy, very litigious man.
You want to talk about Yuri? You want to talk about Yuri for a second?
For some odd reason.
Yeah, he what? What'd you say? What'd you say, Scott?
I'll say he loves his lawsuits for some unfathomable reason.
I can't really put my nose on it.
I don't know why he'd be.
I
don't know what he'd be. Yeah, I don't know. He just loves lawsuits.
Yuri Geller! Didn't you once call him a turbo Jew, Adam?
Probably.
Once. On the Paranormies, I believe you called him a turbo Jew. We talked about, oh man, what episode was that? It was in the first season, which we've Mandela affected away. That the first season never happened. But we were talking about something and we brought up Uri Geller and you were like, holy shit, this guy's a turbo Jew. But he also
I probably
is
said that about a lot of people.
Right, but Uri Geller especially deserves the mantle of that. He, of course, lives in and has lived in Israel pretty much his entire life. But he's the guy.
With the Jewish masters.
Yeah, he trained with the Jewish masters. You know, he. He's one of these guys. There's a magazine called ESP in 1976 where the cover said, "This cover can bend your keys." He's that kind of guy. I think Uri Geller is another human who has tapped into the psychic ability that a lot of us don't have anymore, or don't know how to do. But
they're going to call us kike shells for this.
They're going to call us kike shells for that. But you know what? They can call us that all they want. I don't really care because, look, the Jews. Here's my take on. Okay, so the United States government does research on everything, right? I mean, like the EPA spends millions of dollars every year to figure out like what the carbon monoxide output of butterfly farts are, right? So. Or they figured out what the cow fart tax in California. The you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and right. We've researched, we've put money into like can dolphins track bombs? Can it right? So then they've done the MK Ultra projects, which have already been declassified, and the other stuff that we've seen with the Vault 7. I'm pretty sure that the government has at some point spent a lot of money on psychic research. And I'm not just having a premonition. If
you consider the CIA the government, when they're basically independent but related,
right.
They had psychic research going on because they were trying to compete with the Soviets.
Mm-hmm. Of course. So, that is definitely the case. So, in the late 70s, early 80s, the United States government pretty much shut down all of its, or at least most of its funding for the parapsychological and all that. And honestly, this may just be my opinion, and the rest of the Paranormies may not share the views of Johnny Monoxide, but I believe that that was where Uri Geller and Israel took over as the world leaders in the parapsychological research department. And that's just my opinion.
That's plausible. I can see.
I mean, it's definitely plausible because that was around the same time Uri Geller was popularized in the 76, 77, and that was when our buddy here, the PK man, was coming around. That's when Ted came out with 76, 77 years, 1976, 1977. And he was looked at as people would come see him and they would look at him like he had 7 heads. They thought he was crazy, even though he was able to prove and actually do some of these things like for real,
Right.
But yeah, do you think does anybody but me think that there might be something to that?
No, I think it's definitely plausible. I mean, I don't know one way or another, but I wouldn't be surprised. I know the United States likes to outsource a lot of stuff that, might seem unsavory or out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
Especially if you're in the 70s where they're like, okay, there might actually be something to this. I can definitely see the Israelis being like, oh yeah, we'll take over for you.
Right.
Just increase the benefits package to Israel there.
Yeah. So speaking of the benefits package to Israel, so Uri Geller worked with Puthoff and Targ, and they were there in Menlo Park doing their remote viewing stuff and whatever. And then along came Ted Owens, who he signed his letters PK Man, and he had proclaimed he was the world's greatest psychic. Puthoff and Targ actually declined the offer for him to come and work with them, which is interesting because if they would work with the Jew Geller, but they wouldn't work with Owens,
Well, I know Targ at least is also Jewish. I don't know about the other guy.
Puthoff. Sounds, it
There's
could be
a
German,
lot
could
of
be,
Jews
yeah.
involved here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's the other thing that you're talking about Israel taking over. I wouldn't be surprised at all because so many of these researchers actually are Jewish. And I do think there's absolutely something to the whole Sigh phenomena. But yeah, no, it's like a Tel Aviv phone book. Like looking through this book when the
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
It's
It's
like all
like
these researchone it's like a Tel Aviv phone book. So I don't know. I wouldn't be
Silver
surprised if
Goldman,
Israel took
yeah.
over.
So when he was in California in the 76, about that time, 1976. Hold on a minute. Yeah, so that is where Jeffrey Mishlove met Ted Owens at a Parascience Foundation conference in England. Yeah, I got that mixed up. They didn't meet in Berkeley. Anyway, the point is, Jeffrey Mishlove asked Owens to reproduce his UFO sighting powers, to the ability to summon UFOs and stuff. And another thing that Ted Owens had a habit of doing was he would give very large time windows for his, well, he didn't consider them predictions. Most people considered what he did predictions, but he was adamant that he was causing them in some way. But he would give 90 days. In one, he said, as of today and daily for the following 90 days, I will telepath the living entities in another dimension for them to appear in the above target area. He's talking about the San Francisco area and a 100-mile radius. So he's saying 90 days, but very, very rarely did it take more than a week or two for his proclamations to become true.
Right.
And so Jeffrey Mishlove, after, Ted Owens said, oh, yeah, I'll do this for you, and he made this declaration, he went to some people he knew in San Diego. Jeffrey Mishlove knew some researchers out there. And he,
this was the UFO
asked
experiment
them,
you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since we were talking about California. And he said, he basically said, I want you guys to keep a lookout for new UFO sightings, that sort of thing. And let's see, where is it in here? It's really hard to compare the amount of UFO sightings in a given area, in a time window to other time windows. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to control for.
Right, but he did set up a 30-day window on that, and in that it was a 90-day window. In a 90-day window, he said he used the San Diego area as a control, and because Owens said that he would have the UFOs be around the San Francisco area, so there were 2 in the San Francisco area and 0 in the San Diego area, so the control area actually had none, which kind of gives more credence to PK Man's abilities. Actually, back real quick, I just as I was scanning through this, Remember I was talking about the snowstorm that happened in San Francisco on February 5th, 76? Yeah. So you said that the last snowstorm was 1887 and it dropped 3.7 inches of snow. Okay, so, and then in 1962, there was a couple of flurries, but in 1976, there was 3.5 inches of snow left on the ground in San Francisco. And there, during the snowstorm, there was lightning, which, like, I don't care where you are. How many of you have ever heard of lightning during a snowstorm?
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
That's pretty rare.
I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the storm featured lightning and sleet, and a giant television tower on Mount San Bruno, which is south of San Francisco, was hit by lightning. Again, lightning is very, very rare for the area. The weather people for the San Francisco Chronicle said basically this was every phenomenon in the weatherman's book throughout the Bay Area, like snow, hail, sleet, thunder, lightning, gale warnings. It's crazy. This is all because he needed to prove that he could do this kind of stuff. So,
yeah, lightning was another big one of his. There's a couple incidents where he was trying to show some reporters that he could basically do what he could do, and they were in a hotel room, I believe, looking out the window, and he would just point to some bridge, and he'd be like, "All right, I'm going to make lightning strike there," and sure enough, it did. And that was like
usually very immediately too.
Yeah, and usually there wouldn't be lightning anywhere else. Like this, it's not like in the middle of a thunderstorm, where you can kind of say, "Oh well, it's a lucky guess." Like it would just happen, and that would be the only lightning there would be at all that day.
And he would get it to strike multiple times in the same area,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which like if you understand the basic reason that lightning happens more or less spontaneously, like it's a charge potential difference between the sky and the ground basically, and then a whole bunch of electrons move up to the positively charged area, and that's the phenomena of lightning. It's all that those electrons moving really fast. Well, once that happens, it's going to discharge that area at least for a little bit, and so to have it happen multiple times in the same spot is less likely than for multiple times in different spots.
Right.
Yeah, it's extremely unusual. So the thing about Ted Owens, like, you could write off any one of these things as just being kind of a coincidental, or it's a 1 in 100 chance, but things happen. But when you take them all together, it really adds up, I think, into being something more than any of these individual parts.
That's definitely.
He had affidavits, sworn affidavits from witnesses who would say that he could do this stuff. Same with the UFOs. Like, people, if you don't know what an affidavit is, basically you go and get it notarized. It's basically a sworn statement you make that is legally binding. So you're saying this is the truth, and if I'm lying, it's under the penalty of perjury. So it kind of helps give some weight to what these people are saying, so it's not just some bullshit hearsay. And he had just multiple affidavits from like neighbors and researchers and reporters and all sorts of people that he knew, saying, yeah, he pointed there and said he was going to make lightning strike, and he did. Or he took me out to the lake one day and we saw some UFOs that he said were going to appear. So it's not just like one guy making all of this up, and it's not just the author of the book making all this up either. It's dozens of people testifying that this stuff actually happened.
Yeah, the hotel thing you were talking about, that was 1967 in Philadelphia. And what's interesting in that one is that he was with a reporter, or not a reporter, a lawyer, Sidney Margolis. And what I think is interesting is that the lawyer was the one who decided where it would happen. He said, do the Camden Bridge. And so Owen said, okay. And a few moments later, lightning struck it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how you would like fake it yourself, but the fact that the reporter is the one that decided the location, I think, is even more interesting. Oh God, what else could we talk about? We could talk about. He trained other people to do this stuff too. We can discuss that.
Oh yeah, no, there's there's so many other things we can talk about. Let's save that one. Let's save the training and stuff for hour 2. How about that?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
He also claimed that in 1970, he told Warren Smith that President Nixon will not end in office. Something most unusual will occur, and he will resign or be forced out of the office. And that appeared in Warren Smith. He wrote a book called What the Seers Predict for 1971. Yep. And then that was in an issue of Saga magazine. And now it wasn't until 1974, of course, that Richard Nixon, resigned. But up to that point, no American president had ever resigned, and Watergate hadn't happened yet.
Right. This is
there was
all.
Another thing.
This was what was Watergate was what 72? No.
What, the actual break-in? It was,
the actual when was the
Nixon left office?
70. He left in 74, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So this came out in 1970. So
right.
There's no way he could have known.
That wasn't the only thing involving Richard Nixon either.
Was there?
Yeah, he warned Richard Nixon at one point that there were going to be some Cubans trying to kidnap him from his at one of his houses, I believe it was.
What? It was like a vacation home, I think.
Yeah, it was a vacation
Florida
home or something. Well, he gave 2 very specific details in his warning. He said that the kidnapping or the attempted kidnapping would happen at night, and he said that it would involve them coming from underwater with scuba gear. And as it turns out later, the U.S. Secret Service found out there was a plot involving some Cubans who were they were spies, but they were disguised or playing the role of ambassadors or something like that. Mm-hmm. And basically the plot was they were going to go to Nixon's house from the water at nighttime and try to kidnap him. So this is actually something that he ended up predicting. Of course, I don't think they credited him for it, but it's
no,
really
of course they
interesting that
didn't.
he predicted that regardless. Yeah, that's another thing that you see throughout this book. It's another one of these themes that he really, for some reason, wanted the U.S. government to validate him. He wanted them to, I guess, acknowledge his powers and stuff. Especially more towards the end of his life, he kind of went off the rails. He was threatening basically the entire United States with freak weather occurrences and all this, unless he was given like a salary of $100,000 a year and some sort of estate for the space intelligences to.
Wasn't there some castle he wanted?
Yeah, he wanted a castle, I think it was, out in California. Obviously, he didn't get any of this. Yeah, so he kind of went off the rails towards the end of his life. He died in 1987 from cirrhosis of the liver.
Because he drank quite a bit.
Yeah, he was a heavy drinker. But he wrote to Mishlove, the author, in late 1985, and he was basically saying the United States isn't giving me what I want. The SIs are getting pissed, and you need to tell NASA that anyone who gets on any of the space shuttles, like the astronauts, they're risking their life.
Yeah.
And, the guy kind of thought nothing of it at this point.
He gave Mishlove a call in December 1985.
Yeah. So.
And that was
of course, a month later, in 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded. So I mean, maybe it's nothing, but it kind of adds up to being another thing. If you want to assign him credit for all the things that happen in this book, he killed a lot of people.
Like a ton of people.
He killed a lot
there's
of people.
the plane crashes that he.
Well, that's another thing too. He caused a plane to crash, supposedly. I mean, he was flying in from, I think, Cairo or somewhere, and he was focusing on I think lightning had struck something else, and he thought he was responsible for it. And he was like reading the newspaper articles about it as this plane was coming in for a landing. And lo and behold, lightning strikes the plane in front of him. I don't remember the name of the flight or the crash, but it killed like 109 people or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it was only one of 2 instances ever where lightning has been known to bring down a plane. And like it just burned out the plane completely. Like it just completely destroyed it. And this was the plane in front of him, like as they were, coming in for a landing.
Right.
So, I mean, if you want to talk about those people, you can talk about all the people that died from plane crashes. What was the one he said, Adam? Do you remember? He's like, oh, well, I demonstrated my power and no one died. And then it turned out like 57 people died. Do you remember that one?
An earthquake or something like that.
It was something like that. I can't even remember because there's just so many.
There's so many different things. Yeah.
Together. So if you want to view him as like the actual cause of all this stuff in the book, he killed several hundred people at least and caused tens of millions of dollars worth of damage. And a lot of it just was from his own ego. Because
it was because people didn't take him serious, and that was the problem. Is he would go to, he went to a conference with psychologists and whatever it was, and he would get up there to speak, and he'd kind of get booed off stage, and he didn't appreciate that. I mean, he really believed this is what was happening. And he ascribed all of his beliefs, or not beliefs, but his powers to the SIs. He didn't believe that he actually did it. He believed that the SIs were working through him. And that's another thing I want to talk about is Twitter and Tweeter.
Oh, the insects or whatever.
Yeah, his SI insect buddies. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. I don't really recall all the details of that one. You guys might want to help me out on that. But like, he saw basically in his mind's eye these 2 little insects, and he
they were like grasshoppers.
Thought he was in he thought he was in communication with these SIs, and he would like send a thought up or whatever, and it would translate on these machines these aliens would have, and supposedly they were like not the big boss, like they were like lackeys for some other intelligence that he could speak to as well. And that's where he thought that he got a lot of his stuff from.
Yeah, he would pretty much tell them what to do.
Right. Well, the thing is though, like you were saying, John, about him thinking that like none of it was actually his doing. He changed his mind several times in his life about how much he was actually responsible for, which almost makes me believe it more because, if you're trying to fake this stuff and you're trying to say a bunch of bullshit, you'd be like, oh yeah, this is all me. Look how powerful I am. But a lot of times he didn't know if it was him. He didn't know if it was the SIs. At one point he thought it was just some thing that nature gave him, like some gift that nature gave him. So he switched. Right. Like he changed his mind several times. He went back and forth all the time on what he actually thought it was. Which to me just lends credence to the fact that it's real. Because like even he has no idea what this is. It's just this thing. But he was basically in contact with the SIs from like 1965 or 66 until
he even wrote a book about it, how to contact alien
How to contact space people. Yeah.
How to contact space people. Yeah, that's why I couldn't remember. I was like, it wasn't that mundane. No, it was how to contact space people. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go on Amazon and get
he
it.
wrote. Yep. The book came out in 1969. It basically, that was when it basically showed that he documented all of his feats. So he had at least 4 affidavits in there, and everything else that Mishlove saw him do has been documented by him. So I mean, there's actual documentation by actual human beings, whether you believe these human beings or not.
Yeah, it's a different story.
It's documented. Yeah, it's documented. So, I mean, back to the space intelligences, William James said, the world of our present consciousness is only one out of many worlds of consciousness that exist. And those other worlds must contain experiences which have a meaning for our life also. So, William James is a UFO researcher. Actually, speaking of UFOs, Jacques Vallée was, I don't know if you call him a fan, but he knew and spoke about Owens too.
Yeah, I know he was mentioned in the book a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mishlove is a big fan of Jacques Vallée. He actually interviewed him too. It's another one. And for the guy who said that I didn't know who Jacques Vallée was, I most certainly do too. That was really rude of you, commenter. But yeah. But in the chapter on about the space intelligences, he talked about the UFOs that he's seen and that he saw, and how they and that they've been trying to contact him, since he was a kid. And he answered the phone one time, and there was a space person on the other end who was floating around the Earth. You guys remember that story?
Oh yeah. His mom got pissed off or something and said, "Stop talking about it."
Yeah, stop talking about aliens. He's like, but I talked to one on the phone. Like, he literally answered the phone. The phone didn't ring; it rang in his head, I believe, and he picked it up, and there was the alien, or the space intelligence on the other end talking to him.
I might be mixing up my stories, but wasn't he wandering around in a daze for a while after this phone call? Or am I might?
Yeah, he was dazed from it.
No, you're right. That's the right one. That's the right story. But he
claimed that they performed brain surgery on him.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing I was going to say. Yeah, he claimed they performed brain surgery on him, but he had a large ridge in the back of his head that is not normal for most human beings. So, I mean, there's, it's possible that he was operated on, but then remember, what's his name from our Dumbs episode?
God damn it!
I know, right? I know.
Phil. God damn it! You talking about the dude that had his hand missing?
Yeah, had his hand blown off, and the other thing and whatever, and these are all his wounds and his scars look like they're nothing that you'd see on Earth. So. Here we have Phil Schneider. Yeah. Thank you, Phil Schneider. We should do better.
I'm bad with names.
Well, not just that. If we're going to reference somebody, we should have it in our show outlines, because we have outlines that we email to each other. Yeah, but I know. But he had that ridge.
About Schneider. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, Schneider had those wounds, which were, obviously caused by something otherworldly. So you have Owens with this weird ridge in the back of his head where he said he was operated on by these aliens, which gave him the abilities that he had. And he did say at one point that that these space intelligences had chosen him. Right, they picked him out of all the people on the planet to be their prophet, which is where he kind of came up with his little Moses theory. But what he said was, it's again, you said he was very what was the word you used where he talks about himself? He's very big on himself there.
Grandiose.
Very grandiose, that's the word. So he says, tonight they told me they could only give me so much power, so much knowledge at a time. It is all my human brain can stand. Matter of fact, they said that I'm an experiment with them to find out just how much the PK power a human being can absorb and stand. Took them literally ages to find a human being, myself, with whom they can communicate back and forth and obtain concrete proof that other humans, or excuse me, for other humans in their own way. So he himself thought that he was
Kurt Doolittle,
the biggest brain nigga ever.
Yeah.
Or Big Brain Wayne from Sandy Hook. Anyways, yeah. All right, enough. But he literally thought that he was, the chosen one of these people, or these SIs or whatever. He was chosen by them out of all the humans on the planet to be given these abilities. And I mean, if you go by the documentation, by the assigned affidavits, by the testimonies of witnesses and whatever, the author Jeffrey Mishlove, all these other people, that he actually, has documented evidence of all of his things going on. These things that he actually did. Okay, so the things
as far as the brain goes, one thing I'll say about that is he later had a CAT scan done of his brain, and it did come back normal. Nothing out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. But he sent the results to Mishlove, and he basically thought that meant that that's how good the aliens were, that they could surgically operate on his brain, and it wouldn't appear unusual. So to him, that confirmed everything. Now, whether or not you want to say a CAT scan of his brain appearing 100% like a human brain, it proves or disproves the fact that his brain was supposedly actually half alien. I don't know.
I don't think that Ted Owens really had very much of a grasp on what the hell was going on. But I do think that he believed it.
Yeah, no, I don't think he was a bullshitter at all. I think he's definitely legitimate. As far
and
as
he believed, insofar as he believes his own. He's not. Yes, he's not. There's no bad faith with him at all. He believes everything that he says. So, I don't know.
I think that actually lends some credence.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
Yeah, I do too. I think that if he were a bullshitter, I think that it would go a lot differently. Mm-hmm. I don't think that his reactions to things and the way he went about things, it's like, if you were a bullshitter, why would you change your mind multiple times on where this is coming from? Or why would you have if I were bullshitting all this and I had a CAT scan done of my brain and it turned out my brain was normal, I would just not tell anyone.
Yeah.
I just okay.
Right.
No,
he was so honest about it. I think he was so honest about everything because he wanted to be believed,
Yeah, and the fact that he would get so mad when people wouldn't believe him. Mm-hmm. I think that he would get so mad because he believed it. He thought, okay, this is real. Why do these people not understand that this is a real thing? And I think that's why he would get so pissed off about it.
He would get especially pissed if people called what he did a prediction.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't. He
was very much anti-prediction.
Well, the book talks about a lot of was it a prediction? Did he cause it? There's a lot of speculation that the author goes into because it's really hard to pin down what it actually is. Did he just predict the strange weather? Did he cause the strange weather? So,
and there's those that believe that it's some part of subconscious, that he's not actually doing it, but it's just acting through him subconsciously.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole nother thing you can get into is, were the SIs even real, or were they a figment of his imagination? Were they part of his?
Well, right. He did an interview with a researcher in Washington to actually to define what was up with the space intelligences, and he was asked this question: "Is why do the space intelligences, with all their power, have to work through a human agency at all?" And he had a great answer for that, actually.
The free will thing.
He said, they have to make a human choice. The law that they can't make a move of their own unless they have a human choice tied up or involved in it. So it becomes my choice. Now that they have a human, luckily for them, they can. That's why I'm so priceless to them. They can have my choices to work with. Which... Yeah,
and that kind of ties into... that fits in line with a lot of what I've heard and read about kind of this, I don't want to say new agey stuff, but you know, there's a lot of literature out there that discusses choice and free will, and how basically negative entities can't make you do anything that they haven't kind of predisposed you to do. Like, I don't know, say someone commits suicide or something like that. Like, you can't get possessed and commit suicide. It has to be something you choose to do.
Right. So, I've actually read that a lot. Yeah, that they can't make you kill yourself. That actually, you have to do that on your own. Let's end the first hour on killing yourself. No. So we have a break song coming up. We're going to be back in a few minutes, but we have a special break song. There is a new Nazi on the block. He goes by the name Mr. Licks. He is actually, and I don't want to catch any shit from any of you people, but he's actually a subsidiary of, the Juggalo community. But he came out with a song recently that was very anti-Islam. His Showood Twitter handle is at 88 Ways to Live. He comes out and just shits all over Islam and shits all over cultural Marxism. So you know what? I'd rather have people like him on our side than not on our side. Here is Nazi by Mr. Licks. We'll be back.
Wanted fucking more? You got it, bitch! You Nazi! Yeah! I guess I'm just a Nazi! Yeah! I guess I'm just a Nazi! Yeah! I guess I'm just a Nazi! Fuck another white boy coming, burning like a guy and I shove it into the oven. Islam disease, flooding overseas, goddamn, I will say while I burn the Koran. I'm a warrior, glory, I fight for survival. The guard like a rival, the white genocidal, the arrived on the side where religion is vital. White pride rise, you despise that title. I'm gonna fight to the death. I done got a motherfucker problem with taking none of your breath. You attack me, I'll attack back. I was told apparently my life doesn't really matter to blacks. I'm offensive, so I'll fight to the death till the one last breath in my chest is arrested. I guess I've been blessed with the test I regressed in. It's taught me to shame my own flesh that I rest in. We got a culture, born as a racist, live genocide and it's right in your faces. Enemies heartless, brought by the Marxists. Fuck you and Allah, Israel prophets. I'm Auschwitz without the camps. If light cannot survive without the darkness, give me some lamps. I guess I'm just a Nazi. Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm just a Nazi. Yeah, I guess I'm just a Nazi. I'm just a Nazi. Another nigga with a gun gets shot, blacks riot, attacking the whites in the streets, media silent. Standard double, blaming everybody but their own, so they grown white devils. Browns and the yellows, and pop for black, but when a white takes pride, he's attacked for that. So here we go again, another white fucking hooligan. He hated like he burning across, wearing the hood again. These pedophile prophets, they seek to topple freedoms. These beautiful countries now have turned to third Sharia heathen. Look at America, we're Canada, we're under attack. We gotta gather them all up and then we're sending them back. Too many motherfucking terrorists are slipping the crack. We gotta put the fuck all up, it's as simple as that. We should open these borders on Israel, flood them with serious immigrant miserable shit. Don't get physical, making it critical. I am the worst of the goy, I'm the infidel. I will rep my pride like the lion, threaten that I'll send you straight to Zion. Yes, I'm just a Nazi. Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm just a Nazi. I'm just a Nazi. Yeah, I guess I'm just a Nazi. Yeah, yeah. They talk with the Kai, the truth is a liar. The Western civilization is on fire. The guns in their hands and Korans on their backs. Got a bloodlust for us, we're under attack. But time to relax, we gotta attack, you're getting sloppy. We gon' end them like Hillary to Gaddafi. Mass production, weapons of mass destruction. Fuck them, line them up and fire. World War III like it's World War Z. We can see whose mushrooms higher. I'ma pull the fucking triggers on every one of you niggas. You can feel the heat come up on the iron. Mr. Taboo, don't talk about this. You get mad, but I scream the loudest. I'm a sick individual with a fiddle on the roof. When I step with the hoof, I can dance around this. The rhythm is algorithm. And I know if you wanna be the sun, you gotta burn an eye glow. Powered hydraulics that crush 'em. I'm speaking in Russian. My AK is ready to blow. Bitch, I'm a warrior, born in your soul is upon you. This enemy foreigners coming in cause he's white and fucking proud. They scream racist, so I guess I'm just a Nazi. I guess I'm just a Nazi. I guess I'm just a Nazi. I guess I'm just a Nazi.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is still the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I am still Johnny Monoxide with Adam Haidt and Scott Taylor. We are talking about Ted Owens, the PK Man. The guy that does stuff with his mind. He crashes planes and space shuttles and stops droughts and causes storms and talks to aliens.
He summon UFOs.
Yeah, he summoned UFOs. What else did he do? He did all kinds of shit. But before we get into that, let's take care of our little bit of business that we have here at the Paranormies. We got a few donations. Here you go. For those of you who don't like the donations meme, we got some donations. They're not donuttions because we don't have donut eaters on our show anymore.
It doesn't feel right when you say it like that.
It's donations. It's fucking donations, all right?
Like, my ear actually, like, doesn't hear it as donations anymore. That's like a foreign word to me now.
Yeah. All right, so Spirit Chef sent us 1488, and he said, "Shill my Twitter, guys." And, okay, so Spirit Chef 0. Check him out, guys. He donated to the show. All right. We got a donation from Mark Mumford, 1488, with a note says, "I wish I was a crazy rich cunt entrepreneur so I could fund your Paranormy trip on an Antarctic... so I could fund your Paranormy team on an Antarctic trip to the Hollow Earth and crack open a cold one on starboard of our fair white seafaring vessel. All I can do for now is 14 hate you for a pack of stubbies instead. Have a listen to this beaut of a yawn by my mate Bongo out in the bush with a yowie." And he left us a YouTube link. I will copy and paste this YouTube link. And Adam, you can stick this in the description. So, because in case you guys didn't know, Adam does the descriptions for the show.
I've been found out.
That's all right. There's the link for that one, Adam.
Right.
Also, we got... Here we go. We got 20 from Guan. He said, "Just watch the PedoTube episode. It was sickening. If cartoons created with no ill intent can turn children into furries, imagine what those videos would do. Props to you guys for covering it." Holy shit, I hadn't thought of that. Furries are created by innocuous videos like My Little Pony and Sonic and whatever. Like, these are not innocuous videos.
Yeah.
I just looked at that. Sorry to be off topic, but I looked at that link that Australian dude sent, and I've heard this audio before. It's real creepy.
Yeah?
Basically, a guy. Yeah, basically the story.
Should we save that and just use it as a creepypasta, maybe?
I don't know. It might get dinged by like the YouTube content thing. I don't know if it would or not.
Look at it and see how many views and stuff it has. If like if it's licensed and whatnot.
55,000, but it's from like a radio show.
Oh,
It's
okay.
from
So we'll put the
show.
link. We'll put the link in a. We'll put the link.
It's a creepy
in the
one.
notes.
A guy gets kidnapped by a thing in the outback. I've heard this several years ago, and like I have like goosebumps in my arm right now remembering it. It's real creepy.
All right, we'll put that in the description, Adam.
All right.
And we have one more donation. We got 8888 from Heathcliff. Thank you, Goyam. Yeah. So you guys are actually now. We have had our hosting service, our SoundCloud paid for. We have had an entire revamp of our sound system with our new microphones that you Goyam have helped us out with, and now we are able to fund our newest enterprise. Scott, you want to tell us just a little bit about that?
Which one? We have a couple things.
Well, let's talk about people been bugging
the one
us.
That you wear, or the one that you type in the URL?
The one that you wear.
Okay. Yeah, so people have been talking about shirts and all that stuff for a while. So I went ahead and I ordered a t-shirt press, and I got that here sitting right next to me. I have all the transfer papers you print the logos and shit on. All I'm waiting on right now is the printer. So once that gets here, I'll be able to start making t-shirts.
That's right.
But how the listeners can get involved is we need some designs. So if you have a design you want to send to us via Twitter or whatever, email, doesn't matter, and you want it to, be featured on a t-shirt, we'll probably, I don't know, I'm thinking we'll probably do like 2 or 3 different designs starting out.
Yeah.
So if you have one that you want to make, send it to us, and if we like it, you want like a free t-shirt or something out of it, that's cool. We're using your design, so we're
using your design, you get a free shirt, Goy. So yeah. Send us designs. You can send it to our Twitter, which is @theparanormies, or to our email, which is paranormiespresent@gmail.com, which is also where you can donate to us so that we can do these sort of things. And
also, if you do make a design, don't do like a JPEG, do like a .svg. Vector graphics is something that can be scaled up without any sort of like image artifacting. Because basically, like, don't send me like a 300 pixel thing, because when you blow it up to t-shirt size, it'll look like shit. Of course, anyone who designs things probably already knows about all this stuff more than I do. So, vector graphics, send it, Twitter, email, whatever, and maybe get a t-shirt instead. There
you go. Cool. Yeah. So we're gonna be doing t-shirts. We decided not to do the Teespring or the I Need merch avenue. We're gonna do them ourselves. And the best part is
the issue with that is it'll get shut down.
Yeah, and the best part is now that the Paranormies have their own t-shirt press, the other podcasts can use if we, decide to let them.
Well, assuming that I do this competently, and I don't.
Well, I have faith in you.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. As long as Pepe isn't sticking his thumb up his ass, he's giving the okay symbol, whatever. We're gonna be good.
Right.
So, yeah, we're gonna definitely do. We'll definitely do. Yeah, well, I'm gonna say we'll definitely do our logo, the regular Paranormies Present logo, and then we want you, Goyam, to help us out. Send us a couple designs. We'll see what we can do with that. And we'll get some shirts out. Yes. So the other thing is we have a website, which is www.paranormies.com, and we are getting the site together. It's going to take a little bit. It's not easy to do, right away, but we're this is the teaser for the website.
Also, we have another show type thing coming up that we actually need to get on. I need to get on it as well.
Get on it.
The idea was, have I even mentioned this before? I might have mentioned it already.
I believe you mentioned it on the Twitter. You asked people to send you ghost stories. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't talked about it on the show.
Basically, the idea is that we're going to try to get listeners who have creepy stories to talk to us about it. We'll record it, and we'll do kind of a compilation. So, like 15, 20, 30 minutes of something that happened to you personally, true stories, and then you can talk to one of us. So like maybe I'll do a segment, John will do a segment, Adam do a segment, whatever, and try to get some extra content out there. We have our first batch of people already. We just need to record with them. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks that'll be done and get out there.
That's right.
So fun, exciting stuff.
That's right. We have, Paranormies are doing things, moving along, getting things going. You know, Exodus Americanus isn't the only show that has its own website. So, you know, the Chad Nationalism.
Too.
Do they? Well, that's Identity Dixie.
Well,
is that their own?
Dixie does.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
yeah,
they have their own thing.
Anyway, back to the PK Man. Where did we leave off, man? We were talking about Twitter and Tweeter, his two SIs, his space intelligences. Do you think that it's possible that I remember hearing about another psychic who had said that she originally believed that the space intelligences gave her abilities, and that her abilities came through that or whatever. But then as her life carried on or whatever, she actually realized it was a manifestation of herself and not the space intelligences. So
I remember that.
Yeah, so basically, it's like Ted Owens was using the intelligences as a psychological crutch, perhaps.
Basically, yeah. The idea was that, you know, if you can't comprehend that you have this power yourself, or you don't want to be held responsible for it by your own psyche, that you think that someone else did it, or, you know, some other creature does it. There was a woman who, well, first off, I should say Ted Owens actually gave hypnosis courses, and he supposedly could teach people how to do all this stuff.
Yeah, he did. He gave an entire series, and actually, people have been trying to get Jeffrey Mishlove to reproduce his the audio of his training.
Oh yeah, he recorded it. Yeah. Well, there's a woman that Ted Owens taught this to, and she started seeing UFOs I want to say that night. That it was like a 2-day course, and the next day or something, she started seeing this stuff. So if it was just a subconscious thing that he was doing, somehow manifesting these UFOs on his own, well, that brings into question, how could you teach someone to do that in a day or two? I mean, I don't know.
Unless you actually have the ability, unless every human being has the innate ability to do so. We just don't know how to unleash. That kind of reminds me of the theory that we only use, 15% of our brain.
As far as I know, that's not true. As far as I know,
that just means you don't use every part at the same time.
Yeah, we use 100. There's no unnecessary parts of the brain.
Oh, really? Okay, so I missed.
Yeah, that would have never evolved.
Brains are very.
I missed a memo.
Brains are very expensive from an evolutionary perspective, because they use 30% of our energy just by being 5% of our.
Why do dolphins have three? Why do dolphins have 3 hemispheres then?
Because they're real big brain. I don't know.
Yeah,
big brain
nibbus.
So they can read Kurt do little posts and understand.
Yeah.
While underwater.
No, but their brain, because they're they can't rest like humans can, so they have those 2 big lobes that alternate the workload, because one part they can't use the whole thing at the same time.
What's the 3rd lobe for?
Oh, that's the low level, basically controls all their involuntary stuff.
Okay.
And it's always on, and then the
3rd lobe is actually really big, so that makes sense, because the fact that they have to constantly be moving and doing things, that makes sense that it's actually larger than.
Yeah.
And that's a tack weld, Scott. That's not an arc weld. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know any better.
It's all good. So back to him, the brain, the fact that these are actually conscious things that are going on and not subconscious things.
Oh, yeah. So we were talking about him teaching that woman, but I kind of realized that I guess it doesn't really answer the question at all whether or not these are external things or whether these are something that they're doing subconsciously. Because
Like
either
the
way,
SOS.
if they're external things, yeah. Because either way,
Right.
you still have to communicate with them.
Well, you got to remember
External.
that, like a lot of ufologists, like J.L. and Hynek, and Druffel, Jerome Clark, and even Jacques Vallée, they maintain that the UFO phenomenon is basically a psychic one, brought into being through our own psychic talents. So you remember when we had Salty on the show, and he talked about, we all talked about how none of us really thought that UFOs were some sort of metallurgical device created by, a humanoid being, you know what I mean, made out of, minerals and whatever,
Yeah.
They were more of a psychic phenomenon, and the thing is it brings us back to the point that the UFO phenomenon can't be isolated as something distinct from the minds that actually perceive it. So, does everybody see it the way they see it, or is it something different?
Well, I think that everyone sees them because Ted Owens could take a witness out to
summon them or
wherever.
whatever too. Yeah.
Yeah, he would summon the UFO, and everyone would agree that they saw the same thing. Mm-hmm. But
well, and the other thing about
that
that
doesn't
is
answer where they come from.
Right, that's true. And the other thing is that everybody sees, well, this is also back to the UFO theory, is that everybody basically sees the same thing, whether it's round, oblong, triangular. There's not, it's pretty much those three shapes, more or less, right? It's round, oblong, triangular. Mm-hmm. There's not like an unlimited type of, you don't see X-Wings and TIE fighters and, the
Right.
Enterprise and whatever. Right. It's always the same small, like, types.
Saucers or
Saucers.
cigar shape or
Right. Saucers, cigars, and triangles. I mean, what do you guys think that might be? What's the reason for that? If they are psychically manifested.
That's a good question, actually. I don't know.
He brought up
I mean-
at one point that the descriptions of UFO sightings from different, broad time periods tended to be similar to their depiction in, like, pop culture, which, you could say there's two ways pretty much you could go. Is either, these people are just mistaken, and so they think that they didn't see a UFO, but they saw something, and then retroactively their brain, sort of retconned that into being whatever was the popular UFO, style at the time. Or you could say that it's a psychic phenomenon. Those things were created, but the form they took was like not really arbitrary, but it's based on what they think that it would look like. You know what I mean? Like, it actually was manifested there in that form because that's what they unconsciously caused it to be.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, the problem is there's just no way to really know. I mean, each theory is basically just as valid as the next because how do you know?
I don't think that people.
I don't think we do
what
know.
Seemed like a common theme, especially with all the. Well, we can talk about the Poltergeist later, but I don't think Ted Owens really had. Like, he had a pretty significant degree of control, if all this is correct. Like, he, at minimum, had the psychic ability to contact the SIs, if that stuff's true. Mm-hmm. That's like the minimum amount of psychic ability that he had. And whether or not that was something that he created unconsciously to explain why he was able to do all the weather stuff and the lightning and the hurricanes and all this, because he could, if you accept that psychic powers are real, he could either be psychically powerful enough to cause all these physical phenomenon, in which case his brain would have enough power to convince himself that it was other things doing it, or it was other entities that were doing it, right? Like, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between those two things.
Right.
And he certainly believed very strongly that it was the space intelligences.
Well, but like you said before, Scott, he flip-flopped back and forth.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think he really knew either. Like, I think he had his opinion on it, but he changed his mind several times. So
I think there's a middle ground in that it could have been both. I mean, if we're, in the framework that psychic powers are real, he has enough power to contact space intelligences. Let's say that he really was in contact with those people, but he also was powerful enough to cause, physical manifestations that
Yeah, but it all could have also been a subconscious thing too. Like,
right.
Their space intelligences don't have to exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. You
can believe that they do, even as Ted Owens, and they still could not be real, and it still could be completely subconscious. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to speculate, but I don't think that we're ever going to find out one way or another.
That would help explain why he didn't have a 100% success rate, but rather he just had a very high success rate, and that he did not know how to maintain like complete control over whatever abilities he had.
Well, it's like going to the whole like sports analogy thing. Like, you can have a really good say basketball player, the best basketball player in the world, still isn't going to hit every free throw. The best golfer in the world isn't going to hit under par every single time. So I think that even as a practiced psychic or whatever you want to call Ted Owens, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to hit it every time. Now, if there were space intelligences and he was in communication with them, you would think that he would get it a lot more than he did, Like, his batting average was pretty good, and the book even goes into the whole baseball analogy, how they thought it was a pretty good analogy because he struck out sometimes, and he had a batting average of a third to 2/3, depending on how much you want to give him credit for partial successes. Now, what I think is interesting to me, and I don't even know if the book mentioned this, I just thought of it, but when he would get pissed off, it seemed like he had a much better success rate. If someone laughed at him, he would do much better in his revenge powers or feats than he would without any sort of passion behind it. Which to me tells me that it may have been a subconscious thing. There may not have been any SIs whatsoever. Because if there were, why would they care if he's pissed off or not? Why would that affect their ability to do things? But that's not what you see. You see him get pissed off because some reporter laughed at him, and next thing you know, he's throwing hurricanes across the ocean and doing all this craziness. So I don't know. I really do think it could go one way or another. As far as whether or not it was all him.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that it was him or it was the SIs, but I mean, who knows? I mean, like we said, this goes back to Moses. Let's go back to Moses for a second. And this is the Oh man, I scrolled past it. Damn it. Hang on. The Moses theory that he was the prophet. He was the prophet of the SIs. You know, Moses followed a pillar of smoke and a pillar of fire. You know, these are both, paranormal and extraterrestrial things. You know, that they had the Israelites, following these things out of Egypt.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at the whole book of Exodus, I could totally believe the theory that it's all basically one big alien encounter.
Oh yeah. I mean, and again, you have Moses battling Pharaoh's magicians in battles of PK. You know, where they're turning their rods into snakes and turning this into that, and they're doing this, and they turn
the frogs gay.
They turn the frogs gay. No, they didn't turn the frogs gay back then. That was the bisphenol A that comes from the plastics and the birth control hormones that all the thoughts are pissing into the water. So you and your barren fucking birth areas and your fucking stop. Anyways, I'm just gonna get angry about that. Yeah, they're turning the frogs gay. But no, Moses battled Pharaoh's magicians for days on end in what was one of the greatest battles, one of the greatest psychic battles in history, and that's accepted as verbatim fact in most Abrahamic religion, in actually all three, in Christianity, Judaism, and in Islam, that Moses did this stuff. But now, you say you caused the Challenger to crash, and you're just a crazy person.
Right. Yeah. Even though he predicted that something would happen on one of these space shuttles.
He predicted it in December, and it was a month. Yeah, it was 5 weeks later that Krista McAuliffe, in her blue eyes, one blew this way, one blew that way.
That's pretty good.
Christ.
I've been saving that one for a while, since like sixth grade.
Since 86.
Since 86, yeah. Since like third grade or however old I was. I don't remember when that happened. All I remember is that I do remember that when that happened, there, Miss Kaufman, there was the seventh grade teacher at my school, was Krista McAuliffe's college roommate. And I remember I remember her having to leave the school because she watched her roommate blow up live on television. So
shit,
brutal.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't the first spaceship type thing that Ted Owens was involved in either.
No, it wasn't.
That was the culmination of it.
That was the biggest. I mean, granted, it was the big, and of course, it was explained away, as many governmental things are explained away. It was an O-ring that was, it seated incorrectly.
Well,
could you give me a much more mundane excuse? No, seriously though, think about it. Think about NASA's comeback for that. It was a misseated O-ring. Really?
It's not contradictory to say that both of those things are true.
Right, but you think of all the things that happened with his PK abilities, he unseated an O-ring and caused,
Well, I don't see why not. I mean,
maybe it's just my Hollywood. It's my Hollywood interpretation of what PK can do.
Yeah, well,
Hollywood.
Well, it can blow up a Challenger. I mean, it happened. So, whether it's an O-ring or whether it's something else, it's gonna blow up somehow. It has to has a cause.
Yeah, there's a causation of the blow. I know. I just to me that just seems like the most inanely mundane explanation for I don't think they misplaced a comma or something. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't think that it's that they're people. People do stupid things all the time. I don't think that NASA's making up the O-ring. But there were other things.
I also don't understand. Oh, hold on. Here's the other thing: is I don't understand how they could definitively say it was the O-ring when literally all they had was ash that came down.
Well, the space shuttle is sending back telemetry data the whole time it's up there. It constantly is sending back data in flight.
Okay.
So they can. What, do you not think that's a thing?
No. That's fair. That's fair. I guess. Well played, NASA. Well played.
Yeah, as far as other things with the space program goes, there were the most interesting one to me was there was a probe, I think, that went around Mars, and it came around the other side 8 minutes later than they thought it should, which was weird.
Yeah, it like paused
the
behind
way
Mars for a ridiculous amount of time that it shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, the way these trajectories work, like they have them mapped out to the second. Like, and of course there's space. There's no atmosphere to slow things down or make things change course. So it's actually probably easier to do in space than on Earth. But if you know something's speed and direction, you know the gravity of Mars and all this, well, you can calculate exactly how long it takes for it to pop out the other side. Now they do this, and for whatever reason, this Mars probe came out 8 minutes later than they expected it to.
That's a huge margin.
Yeah,
in space, 8 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, that's a real big fuck up. So I don't know. It's mysterious. Supposedly they were all scratching their heads at that. There was like experiments on space shuttles that would just go bad for no explainable reason. There was other stuff too.
Well, the mundane explanation is that it's in space, and we don't know enough about space for it to. But I can't. There's only so many times you can use the mundane.
Well, what was the one? There was one with Apollo 12. Do you guys remember that? I remember something happened with Apollo 12 as well.
I don't.
But I can't remember. It's in the book. I wish I could remember off the top of my head, but I can't. Yeah, so long story short, there was a lot of involvement that Ted Owens had with the space program and with weird things happening. God, what else? Oh, the big one, Mount St. Helens. He was with kids. And he was like drawing out, like he was like showing his kids on a map or something. What's that?
The Apollo 12 thing?
Yeah. Did you find it?
So this was, let's see. He said that lightning would strike the launching pad or the spacecraft itself as it was in its final countdown at Cape Kennedy. And they said that after it shot up into the sky, the control crew saw that no telemetric data just stopped coming back suddenly. And basically at a power outage, astronaut Charles Conrad, he said, the light had gone out in the spacecraft, and he says he didn't know what happened, and that, he said he's not sure that they didn't get hit by lightning.
Well, that would certainly fit in with Ted Owens. I mean, the dude loved his lightning.
He really did. There was always lightning. It wasn't just lightning. It was always really abnormal meteorological effects.
Yeah, it wasn't like thunderstorm lightning. It was like, oh, hey, there's no clouds out and there's lightning.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the fact that there was 3.5 inches of snow when there hadn't been snow for almost 100 years. That kind of stuff. It was lightning in a snowstorm. Shit that doesn't happen in regular meteorological circumstances.
Right.
I know we talked about the stuff involving the president,
Richard Nixon,
but we forgot to mention that in 1966 Owens wrote a letter to President Johnson, and he said that someone was planning to crash a plane loaded with explosives into the White House or into Johnson's ranch in Texas. He said that the guy who was planning to do it was going to be like ex-army flyer or a serviceman. And it wasn't until a year later in 1967 that there actually was a former Air Force pilot that was threatening to fly a plane into the White House. And it was about a year, like exactly a year later, too.
Yeah,
it was from
almost
May
a year
10th,
to the
66
date.
to May 4th, 67.
Yeah, I forgot all about that one. That was another one that was really strange. The book also talks about a lot of predictions tend to happen exactly a year later. There's a term for it in the book. I can't remember what it is. But for whatever reason, there was another psychic who had this happen a lot with. She would see something and then it would come to pass usually a year later on the same day. Ted Owens, I don't know if a lot of his predictions took that long. It seems like most of his only took a few weeks.
Most of his happened within his little he kind of had that 90-day window thing.
Yeah. But
I think
mean,
that lends credence to him having, like, some degree of unconfidence in his abilities. Like, he didn't totally understand them. You know, and he wanted to make sure he had some, like, ample wiggle room for it, even though he very rarely needed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
two-thirds success rate. I mean, those Jeffrey Mishlov's documented experiments with Ted were 2/3. That's 66%. 6.667. That is twice the amount that it takes to get into the Hall of Fame as a hitter. If you can hit the ball one out of every 3 times, in baseball, if you can hit the ball 1 out of every 3 times, you're going to the Hall of Fame. If you hit the ball 2 out of every 3 times, you're the greatest hitter in the history of the game. This guy was 2 out of 3 with his, if you want to call them predictions.
Speaking of sports analogies, let's get into his sports stuff too, because he ended up probably being most famous during his lifetime for his sports hexes, or whatever you want to call them. I think he called them hexes.
Yeah. Real quick before that, speaking of sports, you guys know the quote from Nietzsche about I teach you the Superman. I teach you the Superman. Man is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to overcome him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Which goes hand in hand with sports and the Superman. Holy shit! Even in the sports world, there's Jewy names. Dr. Max Fogel. You weren't wrong when you said that this book is full of.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder why that is. I wonder what's up with all the
no, I don't doubt that. That's what I'm saying. You guys remember when I said that the United States stopped getting into parapsychology in the late 70s, early 80s, and that's when Uri Geller was like big, and that and maybe they took it away from us. Who knows? But I do know that there's a lot of echoey names in this book. Holy cow! Yeah.
But no, the sports.
It just triggered me. It just triggered me right there. So yeah, let's talk about the sports.
Yes. So okay. So where do we really start with this? He was a big sports guy. Ted Owens was like we said. He did boxing as a young man. He had this method where he would go into his room with a case of beer and a bottle of scotch.
Yep.
And he would basically just get drunk and watch sports games.
Yeah, he would have 2 or 3 televisions on at the same time watching different sports too.
Later on he would, but
okay.
He would watch these sports games.
Am I getting too far ahead?
Yeah, a little. He couldn't help his team. Like, he explained his method, and so he couldn't help his team do any better. His method was to make the opposing team do worse. And then, if the team would take advantage of that, they could win the game. So he would do stuff like he would try to make them fumble the ball, or like a quarterback, he would try to make their vision blurry as they were about to throw the ball. Passes were one of his favorite things to try to mess with. He didn't like to mess with like running plays as much, I guess, but he would always try to mess with the quarterback. Well,
What sport is that you're talking about? Is that soccer?
yes, no, it's football.
Joking.
But he wouldn't just do football though. He did. I think
He was a big fan.
baseball.
He was a big fan of the Basketball Americans too.
Yeah, basketball. He actually would go to sports teams and he would offer to help them for like $100,000 a year or whatever. But he'd be like, I'll make you win the Super Bowl. And of course, not a lot of these teams really took him up on that.
Literally none.
Yeah, none. He would get laughed at, and he would be pissed off about it, of course. And so
He'd get angry and a
would be
plane
like,
would
okay,
crash.
well-
It's weird.
Well, no, he'd get angry, and a team would suffer like 30 injuries in a season or something. The book goes into that as well. It talks about like all the unusual sports things that happened, supposedly due to him. He made the Dolphins like one year. He took the Dolphins to the Super Bowl and then made them lose on purpose.
Brutal.
He hated the Philadelphia Eagles. He would mess
Nick
with them.
Buonacani is pissed right now because if that's the case, he's. I only know that name because I used to watch that, and he was on that team that went to the Super Bowl and lost.
He
It's the only
he
name
hated
that
the
people know.
Cowboys too.
Well, who doesn't?
He well, like
You have to be a fag to like the Cowboys. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. You have to be a fag. I don't care. Look. We don't watch sports around here, but if you like the fucking Cowboys, you're a fucking faggot. Okay. The end.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Fuck you, Texas.
No, don't fuck Texas because
You
we
hate
have
Rodgers.
fans. We have fans and friends. We have good friends. Chef Goyardee. We have Nathan Goldstein and our other crews down in Houston and Austin and Asmodor. We love our Texans. We hate Texas.
Oh, we know that. It's just is that.
But no, you got to explain to them. You got to explain to these Texans because a lot of them, they're from Texas. So
We're gonna get this in the comments too.
it's so bad right now.
Every week, it's like, what are the commenters going to be pissed off about?
I actually went from hating the comments section to like this is what I read on the
I don't mind
toilet.
the comment section.
This is what I read when I'm on the toilet. So
90%
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
90%.
Even the shitty ones I laugh at now. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. When we got
Well,
called
now we got good
the
commenters.
yeah. Well, remember, and this is a good comment. We are the most racist podcast.
I somehow
Damn.
doubt that.
I do too, but I will take the title. I will
We're
gladly
probably the most racist paranormal podcast.
Oh, by far.
by far.
No contest.
Like, if there's a
well-
worse one, I would like to hear it.
No, okay. Henrik and Lana don't say kike, but they have gone more nationalist than any other.
That's
But
true.
no,
I still
yeah.
think we're probably more racist.
Okay.
what
Whatever.
are you talking about?
Whatever,
Sports
bigot.
shit.
No, oh yeah. Let's get back to the Cowboys. He hated the Cowboys.
Yeah, so the Cowboys had like one of the worst seasons ever. After like 7 really good seasons or some shit like that. He would hex specific players sometimes, or he would have like an area of the field he would try to hex. One of them, he took a reporter to see one of these games, and I can't remember all the details, but the quarterback was doing really well, and he wanted to get the quarterback out of the game, and basically what ended up happening was he got the quarterback to charge the field at one point and like try to fight another player, and he got kicked out that way. And that was Ted Owens was saying, "Oh, I'm being nice about this because he didn't get injured; he just got kicked out of the game by the ref." So it was just another thing that he was capable of. I would really recommend the book. It's like $10 on Amazon, or
It really is. Yeah. Did you guys actually end up buying the book?
Yeah, and then like a second later, I found the PDF.
Right. So did you actually own the book? Is it paperback or is it hardcover?
I have it on Kindle.
Yeah, Kindle.
Oh, you guys got the Kindle version.
Yeah.
Nerds. I buy books.
It's amazing how cheap the books are.
No, I've gotten free books on Kindle. It's like $0.00. I'm like, okay, why wouldn't I buy this book? And that's how I got the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. But
it's free.
It was free. It's 99
that proves it wasn't written by Jews.
Exactly. No, it's 99 cents now. It's 99 cents now. But actually, according to Henry Ford, whether or not it's true, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the greatest. That was right up there with Bill Clinton's. That depends on what your definition is. But whether or not it's true, it's true.
Yeah. No, I think truth has different layers, but that's a little too esoteric for this.
Like an onion or a parfait.
Like an onion,
or a Shrek. Yeah.
Or a Shrek.
Or ogre. You want to get into the Poltergeist stuff, though?
Let's do the Poltergeist stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was one of my favorite parts of the book was the Poltergeists.
Okay. So... Yeah, he had weird shit happen to him in the house, too. Like, it wasn't just the UFOs. It was... He had... it sounded like animals stalking throughout his house, like tigers and stuff.
Yeah, leopard growling.
His kids would hear leopards growling, like real loud stuff. There'd be like things that sound like someone knocking on tin or knocking on metal, or there's one that gave me goosebumps. So, it sounded like there was something walking around the roof on two legs. No, this all happened. A lot of those that we just described happened at a cabin that he was at.
Edward Ames's cabin.
Yeah,
in 1968.
Right?
Well, he was a real estate agent, and he sent all these details to Berthold Schwartz, New Jersey psychiatrist.
New Jersey. Yep. Okay. There's
hold on a second.
Right there.
Who had been collecting material on the Owens case.
Literally, you're struck out. Like Schwartz, Jersey real estate agent. Like, yeah, it's like psychiatrist. My bad. Yeah, that's
that's more Jew than real estate.
Sit down. You're out. Yeah.
But it was Ames, the real estate agent, who was interested in the commercial value that could result if Owens could prove that he could summon poltergeists and stuff. So they went up to Ames's cabin in Maine in July of '68, and he experienced a whole lot of poltergeists.
Yeah, and it basically followed him around everywhere his whole life. Like, he had this stuff happen to him constantly. And I think that's one of the most interesting takeaways of the book, especially if you believe all this stuff happened and all this stuff is true, which personally I really do believe everything in this book probably happened the way they said it is. There's so many witnesses and affidavits. I think that Ted Owens was legitimate. And one of the most interesting takeaways of this is that poltergeist activity is somehow related to UFO activity and somehow related to psychic phenomena. And somehow these things all seem to be different aspects of some, larger phenomenon that we don't know about. And that goes into, what were you saying? You said something earlier about this, John, with like Giorgiani and all that, talking about
the trickster.
Yeah, the trickster.
Yeah. Okay. So the theory about the I want to call it the hermetic hermeneutics, but there was another word that he used in that video. Adam, do you remember what it was called? Not hermetic hermeneutics. It
was the hermeneutics of.
It was basically what he called it a play on words, because it's basically the same word twice. Because Hermes.
Was it Mercury?
Yeah, the mercurial. Thank you, Scott. Mercurial hermeneutics, which is basically a repetitious version of either Mercury or Hermes, which are the same person, the same god in the pantheon. The trickster, the courier of Zeus, whatever. So actually, speaking of Zeus and Ted Owens and his affinity for lightning, now you have what was Zeus's calling card?
Lightning, of course.
Mm-hmm. And how often was lightning affiliated with his stuff? Almost all the time. So there was that too. Okay, so what Giorgiani was talking about was the fact that you have this trickster who's telling people to do things or making people do things or whatever. Like the Israelites, their god that they followed out of Egypt was this cloud of smoke and this pillar of fire, who also, did trickster type things which were very, very evil to his own people. Like he killed 20,000 Israelites when they were worshiping the golden calf.
Right.
Brutal.
Yeah. So, like, not only was it just a joking trickster, but this is like a malevolent trickster. But you also have, so now you have what they say, what Giorgiani was saying was that you could use this trickster personality to kind of push a religion, because because your average person, you're non-educated, you're non-big brain niggas, we're gonna take this in as the absurd and see it as miracles or Sigh or whatever, right? But your learned elders, that's kind of why Christianity took over the Roman Empire, is that the learned elders of the Roman Empire didn't really believe in this Jesus and his miracles. And was Jesus somebody who was being spoken to by SIs? Was Muhammad somebody who was being spoken to by SIs? Or worked through? Not necessarily spoken to, but worked through. Turned water into wine, walked on water. With Muhammad, you had the invisible horseman during his battles where, people's heads would just be severed for no reason in the middle of a battle.
Not only that, but Muhammad
was visited by Gabriel?
He received his revelation, basically. And Ted Owens would have a lot of this stuff happen, too, where he would basically describe it as from one moment to the next, he would receive like a complete package of information, and he would know the next thing he's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, there are some weird parallels with this. And
Joseph Smith as well.
Joseph
Smith also claimed to have dowsing powers and the ability to communicate with angels or other beings, and he had a really sci-fi ass religion going.
Yeah.
Now I gotta go read into Mormonism now. God damn it.
No, just there's this cool podcast, the Paranormies. They did an episode on Mormonism.
Tyler, where are you? Sorry. I didn't mean to
Too soon.
Too soon. Too soon. Okay. Crying Mad Wojak Adam. Okay.
Basically.
No, it actually, if you go through all the Abrahamic religions, you have a trickster personality. Whether it's the Old Testament God, whether it's Yahweh, or what is it, Yahweh in Islam as well? I don't know what it is in Islam. I don't read mud religion, so yeah, Allah, whatever. Yeah.
Allah, I don't know.
But you have this trickster personality who is doing these things that are which could be considered PK.
Yeah. Like it's, I don't know.
Or it's another sort of entity that is actually a god sort of level thing,
Yeah, it's hard to speculate what it is, but I think that, I don't know, there's a lot of parallels, especially with Old Testament type stuff, the malevolent I mean, no one's a bigger anti-Semite than the Old Testament God.
Right?
Know? Like,
yeah. Killed 20,000 of his own people because they worshipped a calf. He made a bunch of, and I've said this many times. You guys know this joke. Ain't no Jew wandering anywhere for 40 years. Moses, pull over! Aaron, what's wrong with your brother? He's lost. You know, like, yeah. Like, no Jew is wandering for 40 years, let alone 40 minutes. That has to be some sort of malevolence on a godlike level, almost. You know, I mean,
right.
The burning bush,
very, like,
the burning bush. Okay, and back to Moses. Actually, back to Moses. So they had this pillar of smoke and pillar of fire that they were following out of in the Exodus out of Egypt. Right when they got to the Red Sea was parted. The sea was, you know, there were walls of water, and now, granted, if you were to, let's just say you dammed off a river, right? And instantly, like if you dropped a sheet of metal across a river at a height that would have dammed it, you would have wet mud, right? At the base.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the dirt being dry at the bottom.
The dirt was dry at the bottom. They were able, the Israelites were able to travel across it, and as the Israelites were crossing, the Egyptians were on their ass. And as the Israelites were going, the water was closing in behind them and stopping the Egyptians, you know, and drowning, and, you know, and there was actually a force that was pushing down from the sky and squishing the Egyptians into the ground as well. So, I mean, you have Sigh right there.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
I really like Giorgiani's stuff. I did hear the part where he discussed that. I didn't hear his whole talk.
You know, Jason, we really like your stuff, and we won't say nigger if you come on the show.
Yeah.
Well, I might say it once or twice, but you know.
Okay.
We'll
so
see
Scott won't come on. Scott won't come on. Yeah. We'll pull a weave.
Right.
We'll pull a weave and say nigger genocide while we're all muted. So yeah.
There's a lot to talk about with this book, but it's
we could do a lot more into this book. Yeah. There's a free PDF online. You could buy it if you want to support Jeffrey Mishlove.
You can buy it.
Yeah, it's $9. The book is $10. I actually ordered the book because, you know me, I like to have books. I just got Giorgiani's Prometheus and Atlas. I started reading it the other day.
Yeah.
I got you know, shout out to our friend Atlantic Centurion. I have purchased the entire Savitri Devi collection, and shout out to Robert Campbell, who we will have on the Paranormies soon enough, as soon as I finish reading Esoteric Hitlerism.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool. Oh, you guys. I mean, either I don't know where else you can read it other than owning the book. The book's like $60, but it's worth it. It's the translate. It's Miguel Serrano. I picked up most of Serrano's stuff. Esoteric Hitlerism and Savitri Devi is a really, really great thing. Mike Enoch unironically believes in Esoteric Hitlerism. Of course, he also believes that the Jews worship a volcano demon that eats foreskins. But then again, so do we.
Wrong.
Then again, so do we.
I was gonna say, like, is that not something a trickster deity would do?
Exactly. Also,
yeah, fucking brained.
Mike did say that he would come on the Paranormies to discuss esoteric Judaism and other things with Jews. So,
did he? Oh,
yeah, he did. He said that last week, right around a couple minutes into his surviving gay, barely, whatever the fuck it was called. Yeah. Let's not. This is the Paranormies. This is the light, the light topics.
All right, we're rambling.
No, we're rambling, but yeah, okay. So we
might be racist, but at least we're not gross.
That's right. That's right. We might be racist, but at least we're not rude. We're not rude. Yeah. No, the PK Man thing, man. I mean, I haven't finished the book. I actually really want to finish the book now that I.
Well, word of warning: towards the end, the author gets a little bit hippie-ish.
Yeah, it's kind of gay.
He's good. The last couple chapters are kind of gay. The author does his best when he's explaining the actual facts of it.
Okay.
And when he's
trying to get him on the show. Thanks, guys.
Nah, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen since we already recorded the show. But it's worth a shot. He kind of ends up being a gay hippie at the end, but it's still a good read. I'd recommend it.
It's a really good read. It's a great book. There's a lot of people in the comment section on his. He's got a Jeffrey Mishlove has a YouTube channel called Thinking Aloud, and he's had Giorgiani on there a few times. He's had the other people who have talked about the PK Man a few times on there. The comment section is mostly positive. People like his stuff. He's not a horrible. I like his stuff. I've listened to a few of his talks since doing this research, and other than
parapsychology is the topic that I would. Yeah, parapsychology is a topic that I'd really like to get more into.
I think we should. I mean, this is the Paranormies, so we're going to run out of conspiracy theories eventually.
Yeah, we are. We're going to be hurting in about a year.
In about a year, when we do the Holocaust, 9/11. I mean,
yeah, those are the big.
The Boston bombing, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why can't
maybe we'll just have Jim Fetzer on for the first.
We'll just have Jim Fetzer come on and talk for 2 hours. Adam, you have to come on when Jim Fetzer comes on. I can't believe.
That guy's kind of an asshole, but all right.
Well, Scott, you read his newest book, right?
Haven't you been training wreck? Well, yeah, but I promised I wouldn't spoil it. So
okay, we'll save it. We'll save it. Yeah, and Adam's been training raccoons, right?
Yeah.
Well,
it's unrelated, I think.
Yeah, that's just a side hobby.
Oh, okay.
I can, they go and attack like other animals or.
Do they attack? Is it like wild animals or like domesticated?
Not usually. Well, they don't like to hunt, so they're in a central location.
Okay.
Huh. It's just a hobby of mine.
Interesting.
Is it Jim Fetzer's house?
Oh, speaking of animals and attacking, you guys remember talking about, and this is
were you on the DDS recently?
Yeah. No. Yes, I was. But this has nothing to do with that. But talking about cattle mutilations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
cows.
These were things.
Mutilate them all.
Another thing that that Ted had predicted as well.
Well, one of the guys he had taught about his powers or whatever ended up kind of going crazy and moving to the outback and
in Australia.
Yeah, because he cut contact with the SIs because he was tired of them mutilating cattle.
Yeah. And the thing about the SIs mutilating cattle, there's, it could be, it could just be, people, the government doing research for a mad cow. Yeah, that's fine and all. That's all fine and well and whatever, sure. But, in January in New Mexico, there's snow, and they would find this cow laying on its side in the snow. And there's no footprints anywhere, but yet its heart and lungs are removed, and there's no sign of anything walking to or from said corpse.
Right.
So
yeah,
that may be for another episode, but
well, maybe everything that can be associated with UFOs kind of popped up around Ted Owens at one point or another.
UFO sightings, Jacques Vallée, you know, ET theory, all this stuff. It all kind of ties in.
All right. Well, I think we basically exhausted the book.
I think we're good.
I would recommend it. I think it's.
I'm
legit.
spent. No.
At the very
we're
least, pick up a PDF or buy it.
Yeah, get the PDF, download the PDF, pick it up. It's a couple bucks on Kindle. I mean, it's worth the read. It's a really good read. It's not. It's an easy read for those of you people who are.
Either.
Yeah,
I crammed it in like 5 days.
Yeah, this is the third book you've read since you said books were gay, Scott. Just saying.
Yeah, I know. I gotta slow down.
Yeah. Whatever, queer. Anyways, all right. So, yeah, this was good. Adam, Scott, you guys have anything to add at the very end here?
Books make you gay.
That's
Books make you gay. Yeah. No, that's for
you can read the chapter titles.
Actually, this one had chapter titles that you probably could have pulled off. But anyways, all right, guys. We'll see you folks next week for therightstuff.biz. I am Johnny Monoxide. This has been the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. Scott Taylor and Adam Haidt. We are going to take you out with another creepypasta from our friend Bradshaw. We will see you later.
Time travel makes you gay.
The man's front door had never looked more inviting. Rain poured down in massive sheets, and he had the luck of stumbling about it right before he commuted home. As he fumbled for his keys, he was thinking about his wife and new child. The three of them had only been living in their house for a few days. After all, the place was pretty cheap and had a ton of space. A nice home, 2 steady jobs, and a beautiful child. The couple couldn't have asked for much more. There they are, the man thought in relief as he walked in, sitting in the living room. His wife attempted to placate a very fussy baby girl. "Hey, honey, she's been crying for close to 10 minutes and I can't figure out what's wrong. Could you hold her for just a second?" Before he could reply, his newborn daughter was thrust into his arms. Her name was Brooke. Only a couple of months old, she had her mother's sweet blue eyes, but her father's wide grin. Her father began to coo her. Almost instantaneously, she stopped her tantrum. "I think she just missed her daddy," the man reassuringly told his wife. With a sigh of exasperated relief, she served dinner. The rest of the evening went rather uneventfully. The man and his wife set the baby down to bed and watched a romantic movie. As the two were lying in bed that night, they heard a loud thud that jarred them from their pillow talk. What was that? The man's wife was greatly alarmed. Thinking it was nothing, he tried to assure her that everything was fine. "It's only the house, dear. The place is old. It's going to settle here and there. Could you please check?" He just wanted to go back to sleep, but his wife was a persistent one. He knew that if he refused to check on things, he would only be pestered into doing it. Grabbing his robe, he set out to explore the house. None of the windows or doors had been breached. Every possession was in its place, and no one was lurking outside. As the man was about to go to sleep, he decided to go check on his daughter. Just as he had suspected, Brooke was snugly tucked away under her blanket. Content with the state of the house, the man went back to bed and slept without any interruptions. "Honey," the man's wife asked him shortly after the couple woke the next morning, "did you find it strange that Brooke didn't cry at all during her sleep last night?" All things considered, the man did think this was a little odd. Shrugging it off as nothing, he gave a rational explanation. "That warm milk must have done the trick. Don't worry, tomorrow night she'll cry up a storm." When his wife was in the kitchen preparing breakfast, the man heard a blood-curdling scream nearly shake the house with its intensity. Rushing to see what was wrong, he was shocked to see what had lay before his eyes. Their 2-month-old daughter was in the open oven, charred to a crisp. Her ashes heaped in a pile at the bottom. The smell emanating from the inside of the oven was so sickening that it caused his wife to vomit. Beside the oven door, he noticed a small note. It read, in nearly illegible handwriting, "It wasn't the house settling."